Well, everybody, this is a really funny situation. Here's what we're doing, folks, is it's season two, episode two of Confluence of Worlds with Bryan Rector. And here we have a really special guest. And you know what, folks? Let me just be upfront with you and forthright and straight with you because that's how we have to be on the Confluence. Yes, paths cross. Yes, a river bends, but let's be straight away. Uh, my guest today and I have been riffing about matters of faith and journey and soccer and just being teammate and culture building and NIL and all of these topics. And I would say it's been about an hour, and then we made the realization that actually we weren't recording the episode. So here we are going again. And let me just do a little bit of an intro because we're a little bit shorter for time now, and we'll get right into it. So I'm here with my guest who I'm so profoundly excited to have on because I've done 10 shows now. This will be the 11th, the second episode in season number two. I'm here with Michigan State women's soccer athlete, key contributor, one I would say of the most successful class members that Michigan State in total has ever had. And my guest is Zivana Labovic, who is still in East Lansing, but not for long. You see, she is getting ready to finish a degree and make her way upon graduation to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to play a year with the Crimson Tide and to learn about a new culture, new attitudes, a new system, and embark on a new challenge, which, as I learned, is something that she does not shy away from at all. So, Zivana, thank you for being here. Thank you for wanting to be an influencer on Confluence of Worlds. I so appreciate you for taking the time and as well for putting up with my antics of dragging you through the mud for about an hour just to
Oh, no
realize
worries.
we got to reboot. So now that we're here, let me ask you something. Is how are you feeling about making this move to Tuscaloosa? What are some of the things that you're wrapping up on in East Lansing, and how would you assess your career as a Spartan before you move on to be a member of the Tide?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for this new chapter. It's a lot of like nerve-wracking things and nitty-gritty kind of details that you have to figure out, but at the same time, it is a totally new experience that I cannot wait to be a part of. It's it's so exciting. You feel like a kid again. Like you feel like you're back in high school going through the recruiting process. Um, and it was just such a refreshing thing because I think it kind of brings you back to your roots, like why you do this in the first place, because you do have to have these conversations of why are you making this decision, what are you looking for in a school, and it kind of just like puts a little reboot on you and it makes you appreciate what you're doing, instead of just kind of going through the motions every day. So I think in that aspect I am totally ecstatic about this whole new move. But of course, like sad to leave my second home in East Lansing and all my friends. And I've had some great times and memories here that I definitely won't forget. Um, but super, super good things going into this. All good energy, good vibes. My friends have been great, super supportive. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm super happy. I mean, I think I've done my part here at Michigan State, left my mark, did what I needed to do, what I said I was going to do from day one. Checked off all the boxes, plus some more. And I couldn't be happier for the time I spent here and more thankful for it, but totally ready for a new chapter.
Certainly, certainly. And I appreciate you recounting that with me and being willing to speak on how you feel about it and where you're headed. But I want to move way back. And I know this is going to be killer because you and I have already discussed this at length. But there were so many valuable nuggets that I gleaned from your upbringing and from what your faith background is and from who you are and how you've been, built and shaped into what we see today, which is I mean, just an incredible person and a rock to share nuggets of wisdom and share, soccer ideology, be it evangelist of ball, and all these different hats that you wear. So take me through your upbringing in Indiana. I understand that your family is tremendously involved in collegiate sports, professional sports in some instance, and has a competitive nature to it. So I want to know about that. And then as well, that third prong is the faith piece. And I would love to hear about how you were brought up in the church, what that looks like for you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the youngest of three children. I have a brother that's 4 years older than me, and then a sister that's a year and a half older than me. Me and her like are very similar. Everyone always said we were twins growing up. Um, but she always was like very hard on me. I was like, she's like my second mom growing up. I could make no mistakes. So I was always like the little runt running around. Everyone was so hard on me, but my grandma used to call me Lionheart. I actually have it like tattooed on my wrist. Because she was like, you would get knocked down, whatever it may be, and you would just get right back up, start running again. Like always just had this like fighting energy. And I was gonna make my mark in whatever way it was gonna be. So my dad played professional soccer. He played soccer at DePaul University in Chicago, which is where he met my mom, who was playing softball at the time. And then he went on to play professional soccer. And then my brother played college soccer at DePaul and now plays semi-pro in Chicago. And then my sister played soccer at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and transferred to West Florida, which is where she plays now. So definitely runs in the family. My dad kind of told us all like we played every sport growing up, but as we got older and older, you realize you don't have time to do every sport in the world, and you kind of pick which ones you're best at, which ones you gravitate more to. Um, and so naturally, we all picked soccer, probably because my dad, he just loved it so much. Every morning we'd wake up, it would be on the TV playing. You could hear the fans cheering. It was like English Premier League. And so it was just like always in our mind. Um, and so we got older, but my up until I think I was like from 4 to 10, my sister and I played on an all boys club. There was three girls in the whole club, and we were two of them. Um, and it just definitely like that's where I get my grit, my passion, kind of my competitive drive from, because I had to have it. You don't see a lot of girls playing with guys, and especially not like back then. I just feel like it was more so of like people like probably didn't like it at first. I think the guys were probably like, "Ugh, girls on our team." But definitely made a way for ourselves, and it was just the best soccer there was in the area. And my parents obviously wanted that for us. Um, and so we did that for a number of years. And then you kind of get older, you're like, okay, I can't play with guys for the rest of my life. Like I do want to play in college, all this stuff. So we went to this one girls club in Naperville for a few years, and then naturally found Eclipse, which is in Oak Brook, right across the border, like an hour away. And that's, I think, where things kind of got locked in for me. It was a very professional environment, super disciplined, super strict, and kind of set up in a very, very serious manner where you didn't really have a choice to not take it seriously. Like you couldn't fail there because they had you follow all these things. You were just taken so seriously and respected that you almost had to give it back because that was just the environment you were in. And that's where I kind of locked in my focus. Like, I'm going to play college soccer. I want to go play pro. Like, this is the path I want to follow. And I had the best years of my life there. Like, I still text those girls on my team all the time. We still see each other over break all the time. I talk to my coaches from that club. But I have a lot to credit to them for sure, because they really like put it into perspective that I could do this. Like, this is my reality if I want it to be my reality. And so that was really the biggest thing for me, like when it comes to soccer and taking it to the next level, was that. But I definitely have a lot to credit to my family because they kind of made me this way. Like, whatever we did, my mom always said, like, you're going to do it to 100%. You're not a quitter. You're not going to like go with it halfway. Like, you're going to do it. If you commit to something, you're going to do it. And so we took it seriously, and that's what it was. And we're like, we're going to get the most out of it. And my dad obviously had very high expectations for us. We were always competing. Who's the best soccer player? Who's the fastest? All this stuff. So it's like really cool to be in that environment. And there were some days I'm like, okay, I don't want to play soccer anymore. But, you always stick through it and you realize like this is what you're meant to do, you love it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, giving us the background. I know that people are going to glean so much from that. I know that I have twice now, which is what gives me what gives me the liberty to move us forward in the conversation and say your heritage being Serbian. I would love to know, and I'm sure everybody out there would, because it has played an integral role in your growth and development, as I was hearing, is what was that like for your faith growing up? And how did that begin to inform your decisions about how you would conduct yourself and how you'd move forward as you were getting older, getting to college, and then having to end up making a college choice?
Yeah. So my family is Serbian Orthodox. My dad and his extended family came from Serbia when he was about 10 years old, so 40 something years ago. Um, and it was pretty scary for them. They were leaving like a war-torn country. But they knew like they wanted something better. My grandparents wanted something better for their children. And so they came and kind of busted their butts over here in this country to make a living, and create a family of their own, which I think is like also a big thing when I just think about like success and stuff. I just think about what they went through and I'm like, I can handle a bad day of soccer. Um, but so they were very traditional, like very strict with their religion. Super, super integral part of our family. Every holiday was a step by step tradition that we did every single year and nothing veered off of that. And so growing up, I went to church every single Sunday. We went to Sunday school. My mom was a Sunday school teacher. It was a very, very core part of what we did. And my mom always preached it. Like whenever we would have something wrong, something confused, we didn't understand something, she would just always tell us like, pray about it, talk to God about it. Like he makes everything happen for a reason, even when you don't know what that reason is. Like just stick with him and you'll be fine. And so, I mean, that is like always one thing I remember from my childhood. Like that specific sentence is engraved in my brain. Um, and so naturally, like that was just what I knew. That's what I was told. That's what I was taught. That's what I was around. So I was super religious, but it wasn't because I found it. It wasn't because I made my own opinions about it. That's just what I kind of grew up around, and that's what it was. And I didn't have a problem with that by any means. Like I wasn't mad about it, but again, it was just that's what it was since I was born. Um, and so then high school came around. My brother went first because he was 4 years older than me, so I was still pretty young at the time. But my mom was like, I want to send them to this private Catholic school. Like it's a really, really good school. My mom's a middle school teacher and now she's actually a principal. So she's like very heavy on the education part. And my dad was like the sports focus. And my dad was like, I don't know, like we're not Catholic, like we're Serbian Orthodox. I don't want to send them to a different school with a different religion. Like that doesn't make much sense. And my mom's like, no, no, like they don't like shove it down their throats, they just educate them and like, kind of bring them up in a structured environment. And so my dad finally caved, of course. My mom won all the time. And so my brother went, my sister went, I went. And I think that's kind of where things took off for me in this whole faith aspect because I was able to really learn about Catholicism in a different way than just people hearing about it or meeting a friend that is Catholic. And it was really cool to me because my friends would always ask me like, well, do you do this? How do you celebrate this? And I was really able to like compare and contrast and what I liked about being Catholic and what I liked about being Orthodox and kind of see, well, I like this way better and I don't like this, but I don't really like this part about it. And just make my own educated decisions because I was well versed in this religion and I was well versed in this religion and enough that I could be confident to say, yes, I still want to have a close relationship with God. And if anything, it made it me want to have a closer, more in-depth relationship with him because I appreciated it that much more because I was so educated about it. Um, and so that was really cool for me because I don't know if a lot of people have that, whether it's because they were brought up how I was, where it was just like, this is what it is. Excuse me. But it was just a whole different like way that I got to view it. Um, and then I was like, this is what I want to do. And that's why it was, I think, why I am as religious as I am today is because it was fully my decision, which was really cool.
Mm.
And then as I got older, like you mentioned, just college and stuff, I remember like this was like one of my kind of testimonies that not that it's like some life-changing thing, but I guess in a way it was pretty like it was a big decision for my life. I was trying to pick a college to go to as my junior year of high school. Um, and I had talked like my recruiting process started when I was a freshman. So obviously like super early. It was a very long, drawn out process. Like I think I still have contacts from probably 50 different schools in my phone, like of just phone calls, text messages, phone calls, come on a visit, come here. And it's exciting at the time, like you're young, but it's also like terrifying, you know, you're freaking, you don't even know how to drive yet, and you're trying to pick a college. And so my process was 3 years long. And towards the end, I was like finally just trying to narrow it down of what I wanted. And it was between Michigan State and West Point, the Army. And so it was quite a crazy, really different comparison. Like now that I put those two in the same sentence, I'm like, okay, they have nothing in common, but it's okay. Again, me being in high school, not knowing what I wanted, just got my license. Like, so I'm going with the flow, but I really had like both. I went on a day trip to Michigan State, but like it was like literally a 4 hour trip. And that was it. So we scheduled another one in advance, like a overnight, spend the time with the girls, talk to the coaches, all that kind of stuff. And I had already gone on my visit to West Point. And I loved it. Like it was so cool, like to like have that feeling like you're a part of something so much bigger. And I love the structure and the discipline. Like I'm very time oriented person and I'm super OCD. And so I was like, this is kind of a good environment for me. Like I like that. So I had a great visit there, but then I had my Michigan State one scheduled. And so I told the West Point coach, like, hey, hold on, like I'm gonna go on and visit to Michigan State. I just want to weigh out all my options, not close any doors. And he's like, okay, like here's your offer. You have so and so amount of time. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like I'll make a decision after I go on this visit. And so the first visit, there was a huge, huge snowstorm. It was February of my junior year. And the Michigan State coach called me and was like, hey, like, let's just reschedule. I don't want you guys driving because it was only going to be me and my sister that drove up this time because my parents were out of town. And she's like, I don't want you guys driving like alone. Like, that's not safe. We'll reschedule for next weekend. So I'm like, okay, no worries. I text the West Point coach, like, hey, you mind just like waiting like one more week? You know, I want to again give him a fair chance, like whatever. And so he was super nice and he's like, yeah, that's fine. And again, I'm super stressed out because I realize my time is coming to an end. Like I do need to make a decision soon. And my sister just kept saying, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. So that's what I'm doing this whole time. I'm like, I can't make a decision for myself. Like I don't even trust myself enough. So I'm just gonna leave it up to God and hope like there's a sign or something plays out itself. And so then the next weekend is supposed to be the visit, and the snowstorm is still super, super bad. And she texts me again, like, hey, I think we should reschedule. I just don't think it's a good idea. It's not worth it. Because my drive to Michigan State's like almost 4 hours. So like it's fair enough for two like young teenage girls to be driving, like whatever. So I text the West Point coach again. I'm like, hey, like, can I please have another week extension? I'm so sorry. Like, I apologize, but this is just what it is. Like, please just let me give them a fair chance. So he's like, okay, like, all right. And then the third weekend comes and I'm supposed to go on the visit. And the coach texts me again, like, I have jury duty. Like, are you kidding me? And she's like, I mean, you could still come, but like, I just won't be there for like much of the visit at all. Like, and she's like, she's the one who's organizing everything. Like, she's the one I've been talking to. So I'm like, no, like, I don't want to do that. And so I go back, text the West Point coach, and he like did not like that at all. Like, no bad blood, no shade here, but just did not respond well to it at all. And was like, I'm not waiting any longer, you know, offers off the table. And I'm like, okay, like there it is, black and white. That's the sign from God. Like I didn't need to hear anything else. That's what I had been praying for a month, 2 months. Like it just made it so clear for me. And yeah, probably people are like, oh, okay, well, he made the decision for you. Yes, but at the same time, that was literally what I was praying for, you know? Um, and so then I go on my visit to Michigan State and it's phenomenal. Like I loved every single thing about it. The minute I stepped on campus, I'm like, yep, this is the place I want to be. And now I'm here and the rest is history. So
Certainly, certainly. I love that story. In fact, I would go as far as to say that's my favorite story that I've heard throughout all these interviews for a couple reasons. I can relate. My best friend, as I mentioned to you off camera, is a rifle shooter at West Point. So that's something that I'm hearing and thinking about and saying, okay, that rigidity and that lack of adaptability at the end of the road makes
Hmm.
perfect sense. But I also thought it was unique because I actually this morning, in preparing for doing this interview, I read an article that some guy from hishuddle.com had written about you. And the key thing that I gleaned from that is I'm looking for a sign. I'm waiting for a sign. I'm praying about it. It's on front of mind and front of mouth. I'm giving it
Hmm.
to God. And I just am so fascinated in the way that he worked in that time. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that you have to keep telling because that's something that will illustrate to people the type of work that is done, whether
Yes.
we can see it or not. But I
Yeah.
want to move forward because you came to Michigan State and ended up having one of the most successful kind of, accolade based times of anybody to come through the program in the history. And I'm
Hmm.
not sure how you feel about hearing that, and living it back in the mind. But where I want to start is you said to me earlier, you said the coaching staff you signed with were like a second set of parents, and
Hmm.
you adapted well, and you loved it, and you appreciated who they were to you. But then it changed, and it turned
Yeah.
to Coach Hostel, and there were so many variables, there was so much uncertainty. So talk me through a little bit of the arc between making that coaching change to how you felt about it to the amount of success that you had making the second round of the NCAA tournament and doing all of these things that maybe were unforeseen during that time of question when there was that changing of the guard and what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I was recruited by Tom Saxon and Tammy Farnham, which is the old coaches. I only had them for a year when I was here for my freshman year. So I loved them. Like I had a great recruiting process with them. And totally like a second set of parents. Like I think all of our parents felt so comfortable sending us because they're like, they're gonna take care of us like we are their children, you know. And so that's was always super relieving and definitely helped like for a smooth transition as an 18-year-old moving to a different state. Um, and then as like that season happened, COVID hit. So we got our season moved to the spring semester actually. So we didn't have a traditional season. And then towards that end of the spring, like we kind of got a heads up, like, hey, your coach is leaving. Well, he retired actually. Um, and he was retiring and kind of there was going to be this switcheroo. And like the athletic department and the administration, everyone was super open with us about it. Like they even like had some of our players sit on panels of like prospective head coaches. So it was just really cool to see. But it wasn't a surprise at all, which was really nice because you kind of could mentally prepare from, I think that April when we found out till July when we started, like you knew what was coming, you know, and you knew that you had to get yourself prepared. Um, and like as I mentioned before to you, I love challenges. Like I'm not scared of it. I love when someone doubts me, when someone tells me I can't do something because I think I'm like, okay, I'll just prove you wrong, you know. So definitely not one to back down from something like that. And for me, it was exciting because like me and my whole class had said that freshman year, like we came here to win. We want to be winners. We want to play at this high level. We came to the Big Ten because we wanted to play at a big school, at a Power Five school that had all the resources and all this media around it, but to compete and to win something, you know? And we were all high level players. Obviously, we got this far. And so we just kind of like expected more from ourselves. And we kind of just stuck together and made an agreement like, we're going to do this and kind of just make the most out of it. And so when that new coach, when Jeff came, like we were so excited about it. We're like, this is great. You know, like we weren't scared of it. We were kind of like, if anything, happy about it. Um, and it was really refreshing, like new coaching, new insight, new set of eyes watching you, like learning so much more about the game in different ways that you hadn't learned about before. And for me, like I'm always someone that does well in new environments because I have something to prove. And so it was great because I'm like, this is awesome. Like it's so refreshing. It keeps you on your toes. It brings a different part of your game out that you don't really see when you are like in a content place. Um, and he brought this like whole different level of professionalism to the community, and it was so nice because that was what we were missing. Like we had all the players. It was the same girls from my freshman year to my sophomore year. And all it was just this different environment within our team that was like, we can win something. We have the players, we have the coaching staff to do it. It's really now just telling yourself we can do it and then going and showing that, you know? Um, and so it's just awesome. Like that team is such a legendary team. And he even says it too, like he talks about it in his interviews. It was such a special year. And then we went on to finish fourth in the Big Ten, host our Big Ten tournament at home for the first time. Like, and next you know, things were just happening and you're like, this is great. But it literally was just because we accepted him with open arms. He and his staff accepted us with open arms. There was mutual respect. And at the end of the day, everyone just wanted to win. Like everyone was so bought into the process that we're like, we have to be successful. Like one way or another, we will be. And we were, you know. And then the next year comes and we win the Big Ten and we go to the second round of the tournament. Like just breaking records left and right, went undefeated on top of it to win the Big Ten. And then this year, and it was all just because the environment changed, the kind of like stigma around everyone changed, that everyone was just like, we want to win, we want to get better every day. We have the coaching staff, we have the facilities, we have the players. Like, why not do it? You know? And so it is really special to see that kind of like come to fruition, especially someone that was here before he was even here. Like I always say, I'm like, I'm older than you when it comes to this stuff, you know, like because I've seen this whole like whirlwind of change. And I'm like, this is incredible to see that that happened too in such a short amount of time. Like I don't think that's really a thing when it comes to college sports, like for that to be such a quick change and be so successful and people have good like stories about it, because a lot of times, like if anything, new coaching staff means a lot of bad blood. I feel like a lot, and people don't change well, but that was not the case with us at all.
And I think that's so unique. And I think it came at a time where that molding and meshing of different people and different attitudes and experiences, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, because they're the world, right? The world around us, the nature of collegiate sports, all of these different external factors that no one can control have been changing at a rapid rate. And I think what I've noticed in your case is that for as long as you've been in this stratosphere, making these decisions and getting to these places, having these experiences, you've been adaptable to change. And that's something that I so appreciate. And I think, people would tend to point back to how you're rooted in your faith. So I'm inspired by that. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. But here's another area I want to move into is now that we know your background as a person a little bit, as a player even more, what do you think about the narrative around college sports and what has happened, the NIL stuff, the transfer portal, the you know different opportunities that there are for the collegiate athlete to make change and to build their brand and to be who they are? Because I know that you've been able to utilize each one of these at a pretty
Mm-hmm.
high level. And it's cool to see. But I think that means I should give the floor to you to speak on what has happened for you.
Yeah. Um, so initially I was definitely a little suspect about it. I just didn't know like how it would really affect us because they kept talking like NIL, all these new contracts. I'm like, okay, is it really gonna help women's soccer, you know? Um, and so I think all of us were just like, all right, it's cool, but we'll see like what it actually does, you know? And then like as time, obviously we started winning, which was a big help. But then TikTok kind of took off. I got involved in social media, kind of made a name for myself. And then kind of got to see what actually it does, the effect it has on an individual. But it's such an incredible opportunity that obviously not many people will get to say they have, considering it's like so new in this world. Um, but just being able to like build a brand for yourself that is you. Like I mentioned to you before, someone I talked to always said like it's basically every collab that you do, every brand that you like take in and support, it's just this professional display of who you truly are as a person, because it's all the things you're interested in, all the things you like, the things you do on a daily basis, but it's just on a more public display. But I think it's so cool because then you can collab with brands that are faith-based, and health, fitness, whatever, sports, makeup, whatever it is that you're interested in, and you can kind of show people who you truly are and they can kind of get to know you better. But it's also you're receiving something out of it. You're helping a brand, maybe it's a local brand, like, and you can really kind of do what you want with it and then you get paid for it. It's really like best of both worlds, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And I love your perspective on it. I think that the truth be told, that's the most well thought out, intricate approach that I've heard in my limited experience speaking to people who are similarly, excuse me, situated to where you are at. But I was curious, was like, what are some of the, or rather, let me rephrase that, is why are like health and fitness and things in this sector such pillars of your life? What have they done for you? How have you kind of woven a path in those different aspects and industries?
Yeah. Um, so I think for me, like just obviously being an athlete since I don't know, since I was 4, it was always a big thing for me. Like, and obviously the older you get, the more you take it seriously, and you do realize like you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your mind and your body and make sure everything's in place for you to be able to perform the way you want to perform, the way you need to perform. Um, and so that was always kind of like a central part of my life. But I think for me, when I got to college, I really got to like see it on display with myself as an individual. Because at home, like your mom's cooking for you, you're eating with your siblings, stuff like that. Then you're on your own and you're like, okay, I got to realize what's important to me and how am I going to prioritize those things. Um, and just for me, like I mentioned before, like I'm super OCD, I'm very time oriented. So for me, it was just like kind of keeping this tight schedule. It's like I kind of stick to the same things that I eat on a daily basis. Um, I work out the same ways that I always do. Like I just kind of figure out what works for me and I stick to it, you know? And so it was like prayer, eating, drinking, working out, like, and it was just all this structured kind of world for me that I realized works best for me. And obviously everyone's different. But that definitely sets me up for success, all those things together.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. And I know one of the things that we had spoken on that I would love for people out there to know is your kind of platform and social media following took a significant upturn after you had posted Instagram reels detailing things that you felt about faith and about matters of reading Bible verses and all, you know, comparative understanding of the word and of Jesus' teachings. And I was wanting to know is like as somebody who's so meticulous and somebody who takes pride in doing all these things the right way in a way that works for you, what compelled you to do that and to be that inspiration for people who are looking for it?
Yeah. Um, so I I think it was during COVID. I was kind of like not much going on. And again, like I was doing some Bible study and something came to my mind. But I think I was at such a good point in my life with my faith and my like self, obviously confidence and stuff like that, that I felt so secure and comfortable talking about this because I was educated enough in the way that I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. And then I also felt comfortable enough that I'm like, this is something that needs to be shared. It needs to be heard by other people. And so I made that first Instagram Reels post and it got like great feedback from like friends, people that were following me that I didn't even know, or like people that I knew that weren't religious and still were like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, thank you for sharing. I'm so proud of you, like stuff like that. And then that kind of like was like, all right, okay, I can do this again, gave me a little confidence. And the same thing, like I would read my Bible verses every night and something would come into my head. And I'm like, I got to write this down. I got to share it. I got to tell someone. Like, it's such a special thing. Um, and so I kind of just kept doing that, kept doing that. And like everyone would always ask me, kind of like how you just did, like, why are you doing it? Like after the first one, why did you continue to kind of make it a regular thing? But I was telling some like people that yes, I want it to help people. And ideally it helps someone, even if it's just one person. But I said on top of that, even if it helps no one at all, it's helping me so much in my relationship with Christ and kind of developing my faith even deeper and deeper. Because the more I do that, I get to talk about it. I get to do more research. I educate myself further. I feel comfortable talking about it. And it kind of just like it almost like levels you up. Like it brings you to this whole new way of kind of understanding the Bible and the word and applying it to regular life that you maybe, at least I wouldn't have been able to achieve if I didn't share those things, if I didn't talk. Um, and so that even motivated me further because I'm like, this is keeping me on a strict routine. This is getting my relationship um, deeper developed with Christ. Like, this is why not, you know? And so then I just kept doing it, kept doing it. And then as I got a platform, I'm like, this is not the time to stop now. You know, if anything, I have to keep going because now I have people that do follow me on a regular basis that are checking to see what I'm posting. And so I was like, if anything, it's my obligation to continue to post and make this a known thing. And even if people don't like it, if I lose some followers, one thing you're going to know about me is that I am religious, you know, that I walk with Christ every day. And that's that. If you want to join along, you join along. If you don't, you don't, you know?
Mm, certainly, certainly. And that's something that I'm inspired by. I think a lot of people will resonate with is trying to find their why, right? And their reasons to profess because it can make a change. And I think, I'm trying to sort through it in the way of I'm doing a show like this. I'm trying to figure out where people stand and bring a little bit more awareness and understanding and also use that as an avenue to grow my own knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And the base that I have and the relationship that I have being strengthened. So I certainly resonate with where you're coming from. That makes sense. You know, I am crushed because we went through this show and then we're doing it for the second time. I know we're kind of running up against time. I'm watching it and I
You're
just want you to
fine.
know whenever you got to go, feel free. However, there are a couple other points that I would really like to drive home. Is you're on the way to Tuscaloosa. You're making a change after graduation, you're headed somewhere else. And I was wondering, is like you were telling me earlier that you had a conversation about what you're looking for and what your thoughts and feelings and fears are about making this change. And I was wondering if you could kind of recap that for me and let me know how you feel about all of that that's happening.
Yeah. So I definitely have like some things on my mind just going in like as I'm in this limbo period right now. And it's like this spring that I am here in snowy East Lansing. And it's just like I have a responsibility to hold myself accountable, to continue to train at a high level, to continue to take care of my body so that when July comes around, those 28 girls and 5 coaches can rely on me to be what they recruited, you know, that they are relying on me, that when I come in, I am coming to change the program. I'm coming to help. I'm coming to add to it. And so I like am just really focused on that. Like that's my biggest priority and concern right now is just taking care of myself and holding myself to a high standard so that I can go impact the program when I get there. And then like when I get there, it's more so about how do I fit in with the team? You know, how do I still be my authentic self while also like adjusting and being able to kind of like be malleable in the process because obviously every team is different and I haven't been new to a team in 4 years, you know. So it's more so kind of figuring that out. Like I've always been a leader, um, a captain, someone people have looked up to, respected, and followed. And it's kind of trying to figure out how do I go do that at Alabama without stepping on any toes, being disrespectful, hurting anyone's feelings, but also like playing my role, figuring out what they need from me, but still being true to myself, being my loud personality, you know, kind of like setting the bar, setting the expectations. And so I wouldn't say I'm like concerned about it, but it's definitely something that I'm curious to see how it plays out and I'm interested.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And all of that makes sense. I think what goes hand in hand with that would be the exploration of how your faith will look when you get there as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, you know, what you're in terms of the connectedness that you have. I know you said you attend Commons Church and have
Mm-hmm.
made ways in your life when it's been a busy season to try and figure out what your faith looks like. But speak a little bit on what it has been in East Lansing, and if you've thought about what it might look like attending church and being a part of a different faith culture in the South at Alabama.
Yeah. So here at Michigan State, I go to the Commons Church. I've gone to Athletes in Action whenever I can get the chance. But I was telling you earlier, like we played every Thursday and Sunday, and every Thursday and Sunday was when there were sermons going on at the Commons. So I'm like, okay, this is great. Not the most ideal situation for what I wanted out of my kind of faith life. But my roommates were great. We kind of just we would do Bible studies at home, buy books to follow, read, share verses, watch sermons on TV, whatever it may be to kind of like fill the void while we were, whether it was traveling, playing a game during service, and then getting home at 10 p.m. and doing a little Bible study after, like just trying to keep ourselves disciplined and in that world because I mean, it's like anything. You want to keep healthy habits. And if you do kind of let that slip, you will lose it. So it's just like still trying to find ways to prioritize it. But I'm super excited about the spring because I will be able to like go to Thursday services, Sunday services. And I'm really excited about that to like get back into my routine of things and stay on that schedule. And then about Alabama, it's actually funny you brought that up because that was like one of the first questions I asked the coach. I'm like, is there a church on campus? And there is. Nick Saban attends services like every morning. And so he was like, yes, there is definitely a church. And I asked him like, how's the team? Like, are there girls that are like religious on the team? What's the demographic kind of? How are people with that? And so he filled me in and it's all looking good so far. So I'm really excited to get down there and kind of dabble in it. But regardless, like whether or not, I mean, I think faith is so much more than just a building. And so if I've like obviously told you that I struggled with being able to go on a strict schedule in this fall, but then that's when you like fall back on your Bible and your nightly readings, your morning readings, kind of talking to your community around you. Like Michigan State was great because I mean the majority of the team would go to Bible study together. So then when we couldn't go to services, we just all talk about it, and kind of make your own church out of your community that you're in. So I'm not too worried that wherever I end up, I'll still be um, in tune with what I'm doing. And I mean, social media is a great help too. Like my TikTok is super religious. I'm always scrolling through, seeing sermons online. And so it's really always easy to like be able to fall back on that if you can't get yourself to church.
Certainly, certainly. And you know what? As we said, right, a little bit short on time, a couple more things that are pivotal to understanding. The one that I was kind of really enamored by, that not every student athlete gets the chance to do, is that you were able to go on a study abroad. Was it last summer?
Yes.
Okay, and I know you had attended the country or the land down under of
Mm-hmm.
Australia. I would love to know what your takeaways were from that, what your experiences were like, and what you had learned.
Yeah. So it was kind of like weird at first because we were trying to figure out if we could even study abroad because it's kind of like a known thing. Like athletes don't get to study abroad, because you're always in season, whether it's in season or out of season, you're still in season. And
Mm,
so we were like trying to figure out a way to like get our coach to be like, let us go for 5 weeks. Like we'll do some soccer there, whatever. And so my roommate had found out about this athlete specific study abroad. And she's like, we should totally do this. It's in the summer. It's like for like the from the end of May to the end of June. And I'm like, okay, like well, sure, let's do it. And it was really cool actually. So we took a class at Michigan State that spring before, and then just kind of like prep us for when we were actually there. And then we went there and we were able to actually play with the University of Sydney's soccer team.
wow.
Yeah, so it was
Wow.
really cool. And I think that's why our coach let us go because he was like, okay, like you'll be playing soccer, you'll be with a team, like structured program. Um, so that kind of saved us a little bit. But it was so cool. Like, not many people get that experience and to be able to go play at a university literally across the world and meet new people. But also like learn so much about the culture because it was so much more than just a trip to go play sports. You're learning about their culture, their foundation, how they operate. And the people there are phenomenal. They're just so nice. And it was such a good, like we did not want to leave. I'm sure some people are like, okay, I'm ready to go home. We were like, nope, we could stay here all summer. Um, And we had a little bit of everything. We had like super structured classes that we were like writing journals, going to talk to people that were just like day to day people would run into them at McDonald's and be interviewing them for a project. Or it would just be like, go play soccer, do your thing. Or it was like totally up to you. We went skydiving over the Great Barrier Reef, snorkeling, scuba diving, all that crazy stuff. We went to like Australian footy, which is like, well, it's Australian footy, which is like their version of like football and rugby, like mixed together. Then we went to a rugby game. So it was like every single thing you could dabble in, we got to do. Um, and I was like, I was so happy I did it. If everyone could study abroad, they totally should.
Mm, that's tremendous. You heard it here, folks. You need to study abroad if you get the
Yeah.
opportunity. Let's shift a little bit and let's go rapid fire here. I want to hear quick answers and I want to
Okay.
have like we've been in so many great conversations that I want to hear same depth in a succinct manner.
Okay.
So let's go. Let me see if I can challenge you. What are some of the ways that you most enjoy getting away from the game of soccer?
I would say my friends and family, that would just be like the go-to. Obviously my family plays soccer, but still just being able to call them, and whether it's talking to my sister about a Bible verse or some trouble I'm having in my life, like pick up the phone and just talk about that. That's always a good release. And then my friends are just a bunch of goofballs, so it's like when someone has a long day, it's just all five of us sitting on the couch debriefing, playing Mario Kart, like something so simple. But it's just stuff like that that you remember and then you really cherish because it like just grounds you a little bit, you know.
Yes, certainly, certainly. That was a great shout by Mario Kart. I love that game. That's it
I
right
know
there.
it's great.
Oh my gosh. That's tremendous. Let me ask you this. Who are some of the people that have influenced your journey? Can be soccer, can be faith, can be as a person, whichever way you want to go, but who are some of the people that have influenced and shaped you the most?
Yeah. I mean, in the most realistic sense, every single person I've come in contact with has influenced me, whether it's teammate, coach, friend, person at Starbucks, like every single like person I've met, I consider to be a strong influence on my life. Um, but on a more specific note, I would say definitely my dad has been such a key factor in my soccer life and kind of just, I mean, he's been through it all, like three knee surgeries, pro soccer, all the good stuff. And so I think that was be my biggest thing because I always knew what expectations I needed to set for myself because he had set those. So I would say in that sense, probably him when it comes to soccer. And then when it comes to faith, I would say my sister actually. She always knows how to like bring me back centered, and kind of keep me on the right path.
Mm, And you know what you did? You just segued perfectly into the next thought that I wanted to hit, which is if you had to give me one or two verses from the word right now that are most inspirational, that are most close to your heart, what are they?
So I actually have them both on each side of my room.
Wow.
So one,
Hey.
yeah, my favorite one is John 13:7, which is like, you do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. And that kind of goes hand in hand with like what my mom always preached. Like God has a plan, and whatever that is, He knows. You don't have to understand it. You know, He's got it. He's going to take care of it. And so that's been like totally integral part of every single part of my life, every aspect: soccer, faith, eating, food, friends, relationships, whatever it may be. And then the other would be Jeremiah 29:11, and it's like, for I know the plans I have for you, not to harm you, all that stuff. And so I think between those two, I'm like, I got all my bases covered. You know.
Certainly, certainly. And it's worth noting, you are the fourth person who has acknowledged Jeremiah 29:11. And
A good one.
also, each one of the soccer players I've had so far have said that. So just wanted
Yeah.
to draw that comparison. That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I got one more for you. And then I would like to wrap up and get you on your way. And once again, I'm so sorry for taking all the time we've taken. It's like
No
crazy
worries.
the
No,
way
it's
it
good
happened.
conversation.
But here it is. When soccer is finished and you are on the way to the rest of life and living out your purpose before the Lord, what are you going to do? Where are you headed? What are some of the
Yeah.
things that you want to accomplish? Talk to me about what's after.
Yeah, that's always a fun question. Well, hopefully soccer is not done anytime soon. I do want to play professional soccer, so
Okay. Yes.
hopefully that carries on for quite a while. But there will be a day that that all ends. And so kind of my other plan is to go to physician's assistant school, kind of go down that path. I've always been like super intrigued by medicine. Like just, I mean, I broke my back, I've torn my LCL, I've got ran over by a car, like just crazy.
What? What?
I
Wait,
know.
what?
Yeah,
Hold
just
on.
like
I think this makes grounds for episode 2 when you get down to
I know.
Tuscaloosa.
For sure.
You
But
can't
just
drop
like
that bomb on me, Z.
I
What
know
are we
I
doing?
saved I saved the last for the end, but yeah, just like going through injuries, kind of seeing like how important your body is, your health is
Mm,
throughout my life of playing sports. Like I really learned to appreciate that whole healthcare world, medicine, all that stuff. Um, and so I've been super keen on that since I was young. Um, so that would be the plan as of like work and all that stuff. But honestly, I mean, I'm kind of good with whatever. I would love, like, I'm a type of person that would love to have their whole life planned out and be like, this
mm.
is what's going to happen. But the more I've gotten deeper in my faith and lived my life, I realize that that's not always the best way to go about things because most of the time it veers off that path. So I've kind of just like realized that whatever God has in store for me, he does. And I'm totally okay with that because at the end of the day, I know he knows what I'm meant to do. And just kind of keep sharing the word of God, be authentically myself, and just go with the flow and stuff.
Wow. That is it, folks. Zivana Labovic, thank you so immensely for being on the show with me. And I really have appreciated checking out your journey, seeing what has happened, and really looking forward to the next chapter, as I know you are as well. That's
Yes.
so anticipatory, and I'm really excited to be able to view through your profound media accounts and things such as that what happens in the future. And I'm so glad that we could have this conversation. And before we dive out of it, how is it, because I know you love it, I know you love it, how is it that people can connect with you and keep following along?
Yeah. So you can follow my Instagram or my TikTok. My Instagram is like my full name, Zivana Labovic. And so they're all like linked in bios, they're all connected. I do millions watch parties where I watch a soccer game and you guys watch me watch the soccer game, get my feedback. But yeah, really just kind of following along social media. I keep most of my life on there so you guys can keep up. And of course I share the word so you guys can also stay in touch with that.
Certainly, certainly. And folks, thank you for tuning in and checking us out on Confluence of Worlds. This one just boggled my mind, probably because it happened twice, but in other part, because I truly feel that this conversation was one of the more pivotal ones that I've had. So again, Z, thank you for being here, and just so appreciate it. And that'll do it for us, season 2, episode 2.